There's another kitty.
Probably put our brand on.
Yeah, I was gonna say our brand and our music. Did you put our music
The
on?
music's on.
Oh,
Ann
music.
can't hear the
I
music.
can't hear because
Wait.
I don't have.
I know, right? That was exciting. Here we are on a Saturday. You're like, what are we doing here on a Saturday?
Because we're not cool enough to have other things to do.
I know.
Yay!
Actually, Ann, the reason that we are doing a Saturday show is because we're cool and we have things to do. We just don't have them to do today.
Exactly.
We have them to do tomorrow. That's right. As you can see, Ann and I are together in studio today. And by studio, I mean my living room. Because we're actually taking a trip to Chicago tomorrow. I know, right? That's right. This show is entirely about going to Chicago, so we're going to do that. Anyway, you are, and I'm drinking beer on the show. Is that unprofessional?
I don't think so. Since we've had beer related shows,
Yes.
it would seem weird if you didn't.
Yes. Even though I might talk about standards of professional behavior on our show, though I won't say what was said to me yesterday. Anyway, well, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, you are listening / watching the Brother Sisters Smart Dumb Fun here on a Saturday of all things. I know, a spicy Saturday afternoon. It is 6:00 and all is well. With us is a special guest today. Ann, can you film our special guest?
This is Bear Bear.
This is Bear Bear. This is Beer Beer. That's Bear Bear.
Bear Bear goes on all our trips with us. So
yes, the story of Bear Bear is that we were on a trip to the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in 2009, and we were in Munising, Michigan, at a gift shop, and there was Bear Bear, and he's like, "Hey, I'd like to go with you guys," and then we bought Bear Bear, and bought Bear Bear, and now Bear Bear has been our continuous traveler ever since. So, what was that? 15 years ago?
yeah.
Holy crap, that was 15 years ago.
Oh.
Oof. Wow.
Wow.
Old age setting in.
I know. I was like barely 40.
Oh. I wasn't even 40. Oh my God, when we went on that trip, I was only 38 years old.
I know.
What the hell? What happened?
Sweet, sweet youth, all down the drain.
So down the drain. So anyway, we are here on a Saturday because we are going to be traveling tomorrow. We are going to Chicago for a couple of days, and we are going to experience the sights and sounds and awesomeness that is Chicago. So that's really exciting. So should we get on with this?
Yes, let us do it.
Yeah, because we have a really busy night. we have our show, and then we have to go to dinner, and then tonight we are going to be viewing the new Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor. This is the remake. Oh no, it's not. It's not a remake. It's a reimagining.
Oh.
Yeah, doesn't that sound cool? It's a reimagining of the movie Roadhouse from 1989.
I thought it was 88.
88, you're right, 88. Which was one of a Patrick Swayze vehicle, one of his best movies. I know it gets overshadowed by things like Dirty Dancing and Ghost or whatever, but honestly, Roadhouse was, it made us believers in Patrick Swayze. So.
Exactly. I'm like, people are still watching it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're still commenting. I watched it yesterday again, and I got to tell you, I know all the words. Okay. Yeah. It's not great. Anyway, so we're going to throw this on the stage so you know what's happening. That's right. The Brother Sister Smart Dumb Fun is going on the road to one of our favorite destinations, the city of Chicago. So just so you know, that's what's happening. So we'll be, like I said, we're dropping the show tonight. We'll drop on Spotify and all of our normal spots tomorrow night as usual. And then we'll be doing some live work from Chicago throughout the trip. We have new microphones for that. That's right. I bought little lavalier microphones.
I know.
And we'll see if I can actually get that to work for a Facebook Live. It's experimental theater. I don't know.
Exactly. I guess we'll find out.
It's true. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about, as we do always, Ann, why don't you go ahead and take us through the synopsis so people know who we are.
Okay. So welcome back to some Smart Dumb Fun with Brother Sisters. We're Ann and Janice brothers. As I just said, the Brother Sisters, you heard it right. We're the Brother Sisters. We're in our 50s, which means we're Gen X. That means the toys and junk that we grew up with are now considered vintage or antiques.
It's like when you hear the classic rock station and it's all the music from the 80s and you're like, shit.
What happened? Anyway, we talk about smart stuff or dumb stuff or fun stuff or any combination of the three. Also, you should know we are not cool, hip, or sexy. I mean, obviously, taking a teddy bear with us on our vacations. We know this because our gym apparel is baggy and old and comfortable. We dress to sweat, not impress.
Truth.
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 Hey, I do have a question too.
Mhm.
So yes, we dress to sweat. What would be okay? So what would we be wearing, and what would we be taking with us to Chicago if we were cool?
Oh. Well, one, Jenny, we would both have several pairs of high heels.
Oh, right.
Mhm. Maybe some leather pants.
Oh,
You know,
something more revealing than this
something
fleece that I'm wearing.
exactly.
Okay.
We would have fancier apparel.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we
I
do not
don't.
have fancy
I do
apparel.
not. I
No,
don't. And you're actually much more stylish than I am.
but still not fancy.
No, no. For those of you that want a little bit of insight into who we are, I think either you or me or Annie Hannon described us that Anne dresses and I wear clothes. So,
Exactly. That's exactly
yeah,
it.
that sums us up in a nutshell.
Mhm.
There you go.
There you go.
Yay.
Yeah. All right. So we're not a celebrity, influencer, or true crime podcast. We leave that to the cool, hip, and sexy podcasters. You know, we just talk about all the other stuff.
Hmm.
We've been told we're good to listen to while you're brewing beer, and that's according to my husband, who is a brewer.
And this is beer that he brewed. I'm drinking beer that Duncan brewed.
See, there you go. Synergy.
Yeah.
This podcast is not G or PG or even PG-13. Not that we're perpetual potty mouths, just sometimes, so be prepared.
Hey, can I speak to that for a second?
Yes.
Okay, so I was getting my hair cut yesterday at a Great Clips in a part of Kalamazoo. I won't mention any names. And the nice young lady, and she seemed like a perfectly nice young lady who might need some coaching on what to say to people in your chair,
Mhm.
because some of the profanity that fell out of that girl's mouth is stuff that we will not use on this show, to be clear.
To be clear, it was too gross.
It was gross. I told Ann what she said to me, and it was
Gross.
gross.
It was so bad, Jenny had to write a letter.
I did. I'm not a complainer. I wrote a letter to the nice people at Great Clips. I'm like, somebody might want to have a talk with this young lady about professional standards of language. and and I just, and the thing is like it didn't even like occur to her that maybe what she was saying was out of line at all.
Mhm.
She wasn't swearing at me at all. She was not. She was just telling a story. And in telling that story, she said some things that I would not ever say in mixed company.
No.
And I have a potty mouth.
Yeah.
But I would not say that in a professional setting.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna do that in the show. Anyway, I interrupted, sorry.
No,
Finish
that's
up,
okay.
finish up.
So, I mean, it's not PG or G or PG-13, but we do have standards.
Yes.
You can join us on our website. You can on Spotify, join us on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. Like us, follow us, hit the bell. Get your feedback with our questions and answers and our polls. So, get involved, everybody. Or you can ask Alexa, play us.
Tell me what you did today and that you found us on Google. Go.
Oh,
Yeah.
I went to Google and I typed in brother, sister, smart, dumb, fun, and we were the first two things to pop up. Right?
That's right. We have almost 30 followers. We have 30 followers on Spotify.
Mhm.
You could make it 31. And remember, you guys, this is a way that you can support us for absolutely free. You don't even got to pay us money. Just like, tell us other people to like us, even if you don't listen to us. Like us anyway.
Exactly.
Come on.
Come on. Cool. Even if we're not.
Yes, be cooler than us.
Mhm.
I noticed that you put up the on the picture that you have for the Gen X thing was it was like the Play-Doh Fun Factory, but for hair.
It was. You remember when we got that when we were babysitters?
Yes.
Bought it for it? Tammy and Teresa Lazinski
Mhm.
bought us the Play-Doh barbershop.
Fun Factory.
Oh man, it was
Fucking great.
awesome. It's like I still remember. I was like 9. It was one of the best gifts we've ever gotten.
Yeah, it's so fun because you got to press the little hair into
Mhm.
different shapes and stuff.
Exactly.
Blast.
Blast.
It was a blast.
So let's talk about some smart, dumb, fun stuff that happened to us this week, Jenny.
Yes. Would you like to start? Would you like me to start?
You can go ahead and start.
Okay, the dumb thing that happened to me this week, it was the student faculty basketball game, which the teachers dominated again. I don't think I've ever been part of a losing squad in a student faculty basketball game. Reliving our pudgy, our glory days now as more swollen in our old age. Anyway, all I know about the student faculty basketball game, I do not like them, especially as I get older, because it's a recipe for urgent care or workers' comp. So one of our teachers got hurt during the game. He popped out his knee. And I'm like, that's what a swimmer gets for playing basketball, Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're not in the water, you can fall down.
And when you do, bad things happen.
Bad things happen because you're 39 and you ain't kid no more. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's news,
So yeah, anyway, that's the dumb thing. It was entertaining. Don't get me wrong. It was very entertaining, but it's just dumb. Anyway, go for it, Ann.
I'd like to talk about something smart that happened to me. I found an oriole bird nest on a hike, and they have a very unique. They actually make a little basket that usually hangs, and I've seen them up in trees. I'll see them, but this one has fell probably during the winter, and so I was on a hike. I made Duncan take pictures of me with it because I was very excited. I left it there, left it in a tree. Not that an oriole will use it, but maybe other birds will take it apart for their nest. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is an oriole bird nest. So I was very happy. It was at the Falling Water hiking trail just south of Jackson. So you can go there to Jackson, go on the trail. And
Jackson, Michigan, not Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, Jackson, Michigan. Exactly. And then after you go for a hike, go to City Crepes in downtown Jackson and get some crepes.
I like what you've done there.
I know.
So again, you guys, if you need further evidence of our not coolness, my sister talking about an oriole nest. In fact, she's like, "Oh, look, an oriole nest."
Well, and that's the thing too. I also wanted to point out is this is a great time of year to look for bird nests in trees because there's no foliage, so you can spot them very easily. So
Excellent
I'm always
point.
like, robin, ooh, this type, ooh, this type, ooh, that's cool. So yeah, again, not cool.
Again, though, just so you know, young people that might be watching this show, it's coming. It's coming for you.
It is coming.
Birding is coming for you.
It is.
You'll never know, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, "Bird!
It's I love
Where
birds.
birds come from?"
I love birds. Yeah. Sorry.
All right, Ann, it's time for us to talk about the city of Chicago. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to set this up so that you know what's coming. We're just going to talk about the city of Chicago itself. I'm sure there are many people that are much more expert than we are in Chicago. And then we're not going to tell you what we're doing. Mostly I can tell you that we're going to eat.
Yeah.
But we're going to come to you live probably Sunday, Monday, Tuesday with some of the things that we're doing and places that we're visiting in the city of Chicago. So you can kind of follow along. But in the meantime, this is sort of your little, hey, if you didn't know stuff about Chicago, you're going to know stuff about Chicago at the end of this. So huzzah.
Yes.
All right.
So
start us off.
No problem. Whether you visited, you live in Chicago, you lived in Chicago, or you've never been to Chicago, here's some fun, smart, dumb facts about Chicago. The first fact, which I think is kind of a smart one, the first skyscraper was built in Chicago in 1885, which is pretty nice because I think that was like pre-elevator. So you had to climb all those stairs. It was the Home Insurance Building. It was 10 stories. And got to start somewhere, right? I mean, you can't build a 100 story building on your first try. It was demolished though in 1931. They had to make room for probably a taller building.
Probably a taller, bigger building. Yes.
So. Yeah.
Daniel Hale Williams performed the nation's first open heart surgery in 1883.
Again, pre-antibiotic.
Ew. You got to know that did not end well, probably.
Well, I think they lived.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Also, kind of like sepsis theory was kind of taking hold, but there was still a lot of people who did not believe. A lot of surgeons that were like, washing our hands? Why would we do that?
When did Louis Pasteur come up with the idea of bacteria?
I want to say it was in the 1870s.
Because it was like Leuvenhoven that came up with the idea of bacteria in general. Because he was looking at his teeth and
yeah.
I'm like,
but I mean, even you introduce an idea, it usually takes a while to really take hold.
They're like, it's magic. What are you talking about?
Exactly. It's humors. It's stuff in the air. Anyway, so 1883. Oof.
Yeah, because you think about, just even in the Civil War, the fact that they really weren't.
Yeah, they really weren't washing their hands.
Nope.
So it was it didn't really take hold until like the early 1900s. Pretty much everybody was on board, but it took a while.
Well, and that's kind of that fun fact that you don't really think about. That in 1900, the average life expectancy of an American was only 49 years. And I'm like, 1900, that was only 124 years ago. And when you consider how much life expectancy jumped just in that 100 years, I mean, it literally went from 49 years in 1900 to about 75 years by the time we got to 2000. Yeah. It's amazing what we figured out between, say, 1883 and the year 2000.
And some of it was just wash your hands.
Just wash your hands. Wash your hands. Don't drink contaminated water.
Yeah, those were two big ones.
Yep.
Antibiotics were another big one,
Yep.
and vaccines. I know some of you don't love them, but they really make a difference.
They do. Okay, the other one was refrigeration.
Oh yeah,
You know, the
yeah.
idea that you could, electricity was a huge game changer when it came to life expectancy because now you could refrigerate stuff and keep those vaccines cooler longer. Yes, we said it again. Vaccine.
Vaccines.
All I know is there's a measles outbreak in Jackson County, Michigan right now.
Uh,
Fun.
exactly. You know why?
Totes.
Somebody didn't get their
That's
vaccination.
right. It's
Super contagious.
anyway,
Anyway,
moving on.
done.
Sorry.
That's all right. So, some more smart done fun trivia for the city by the lake. It's the world. It has the world's only backward flowing river.
Yeah.
And in 1900, this was done for the Chicago River to divert sewage away from Lake Michigan fresh water supplies. So, Jenny, as you were just saying, drinking water that is not contaminated.
Don't poop in your water.
Do not poop in.
Do
Well, at
not-
least you can poop in water, but don't drink it then.
Don't poop in your drinking water.
Don't poop in your drinking
That's
water.
it.
That's
Okay,
not-
good.
I'm going to get that bumper sticker.
Well, because that was the big thing back in the day in London was, when they were having the cholera outbreaks. They're like, and then what was his name? Strangely enough, Jon Snow.
Right. Oh, yeah,
like,
that's right.
Totally. It was like, hey, maybe if we stopped pumping out of this contaminated water, if we remove the water, the well handle,
Yeah.
people would stop dying of cholera. And then it happened. And
It
they're
turns
like,
out,
there's a correlation.
don't poop in the water.
Don't poop
you
in your
drink
drinking water.
Yeah,
There you go.
there you go. But somebody had to come up with the idea first.
Totally.
There you go. Wash your hands. Don't drink your poopy water.
Push your water out of the river or so that you don't contaminate.
Exactly.
So have a backwards running river.
Yeah. So you can bunch your because that was it was limiting the population growth of Chicago.
Which might have been a good thing.
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, people would move there and then they would die.
then
And
they
so
would die.
it was like they were at this equilibrium. Like, well, maybe if we weren't killing them with the water, more people would live and work in our factories and slaughterhouses.
Toads.
Mhm.
Great idea.
I know.
Yeah, that's causation, correlation. I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, okay, the world's tallest building designed by a female architect was built in Chicago. It's 82 stories tall, and it was designed. It's called the Aqua, and it was designed by architect Jeannie Gang. You can see pictures of it in the background. So, and again, we scoff at an 82 story building. But that's 82 stories.
That's tall.
It is.
Somebody had to be at the top working
Correct.
on that thing. You imagine how tall the crane had to be?
It terrifies me a little bit.
And
those
me too.
giant cranes on top of buildings.
I was
So
like 82 story. I think it's pretty impressive.
agreed. So good job, Jeannie Gang. And again, Chicago, in terms of just cities, in the country right now, the cities that get most of the press are like New York and Los Angeles, but do not underestimate the impact and the importance of Chicago in just the building of this country. So
and there's a lot of you want to study some diverse architecture, go to Chicago.
Well, and I think one of the things that because of Chicago's location, because of its it kind of grew up in the shadow of New York. They really got to do things there that they weren't doing in other places. There was a freedom because it was considered for the longest time kind of a frontier town, because of a rough town for sure. If you ever want to find out a little bit about Chicago, read the book Devil in the White City. I think we talk about that because that book makes you understand just how dangerous a place Chicago was in its youth.
Sweet youth.
So when they talk about the crime rates of Chicago now, and they're high. There's no doubt about it. There definitely is. But when you compare it to the way it was in the 1880s, it's like, damn.
They're like, oh man, we had 25 people die last night. Most of it was murder.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Are you rich?
Was it 700 to 800 homicides a year
Yeah.
in Chicago back in the 1800s? It's like, dang.
It was a lot. And it was like, unless you were like super rich, nobody cared.
Yeah.
Kind of like now.
Next. Slide. Smart some fun facts about the Windy City. Let's go.
Okay, so the world's first brownie was created by Bertha Palmer.
Good job, Bertha.
I know, wife of millionaire Potter Palmer. It debuted at the Columbian Exposition in 1893. So if you enjoy the brownie, you got Bertha Palmer from Chicago. to thank for that.
Well, and the Palmers were, they were well known in
Mhm.
Chicago. Palmer House in Chicago, one of the more nicer hotels in
Mhm.
Chicago, made the brownie.
It made the brownie, and the thing is, like, when we talk about, like, the Columbia Exposition, which is what the, Devil in the White City is about, the focus of this, kind of like think of a world fair, basically.
Yeah.
The Palmers were one of the instrumental, uh, groups, people, wealthy people who really wanted this to be in Chicago, and they were, it was they helped bring this whole event to Chicago, and it helped, solidify Chicago as an innovative place.
Yeah, it was critical in the
Mhm.
in the emergence of Chicago as sort of a power city,
Mhm.
and they had to work hard because they were competing against the big boys, Washington D.C., New
New
York,
York. Mhm.
for trying to get the Columbian Exhibition.
Mhm.
Getting a World's Fair was a big deal, and I can't even stress again. That's one of my top 3 favorite books, Devil in the White City, because it's not just about a serial killer. It's a great history of what it took to put that event on.
Mhm.
Man, it really is it's a compelling read.
And have a brownie
And
while
have
you
a
read it.
brownie, have 2.
Yeah,
Makes me want brownies right now.
me too.
Fun fact, if you're gonna eat brownies, I highly recommend the Ghirardelli double chocolate mix,
Mhm.
and Ghirardelli mix is better than homemade.
Mm.
I said it. I said it.
No, it's totally true because whenever I have to make brownies, I can never make a brownie as good as Ghirardelli.
Nope. And I also highly recommend going to Costco because they have a 4-pack,
Uh-huh.
for cheap. So if you have an event that you
Mhm.
wanna look good for, and, it's
Mhm.
like, "Hey, bring a dish to pass," sign up for the desserts, get you the big 4-pack, and then this is the best, this is the part that will put you over the edge. Because the double chocolate brownies are kinda gooey, put them in a cupcake cup and
Mhm.
do yourself little cupcake brownies. You're gonna be a dessert hero is what you're gonna
Exactly.
be.
Mhm.
Dessert hero! Oh, yeah!
You're welcome.
Yep. Again, Ann, here we are, the brother sisters, heroes.
Heroes.
Yeah, you're
You're
welcome.
welcome. That never gets old.
Never. Anyway, so, all right. So the Great Chicago Fire in 1871 left a third of the city destroyed. A pre-fire building that is still present today is the Chicago Water Tower and Pumping Station. Um, okay, and here's the thing about the Chicago Fire of 1871. They got off easy. Chicago got off easy because 1870 that particular day in 1871, I can't think of it was in October of 1871, is a renowned the deadliest fire in American history took place the same day, and that was the Peshtigo fire in Wisconsin. Same weather system that caused the fire. There were several fires that day. There was the fire in Chicago. There was the fire in Peshtigo. There was a fire in Holland. There was a fire in Manistee.
Mhm.
All immense wildfires. The fire in Peshtigo is actually a conflagration that killed 1,200 people. And so the fact that Chicago was Chicago, that got all the headlines, that got all the press, but it was not the worst fire that day, which is nuts, I think.
I think so too. Sometimes you hear like Chicago referred to as the second city,
Mm,
and it was part of this. The rebuilding of it was going to be the second Chicago, so the second city.
gotcha.
So that's where that started.
Also wasn't a cow.
It was not a
Not
cow.
a cow.
No, poor
So
cow.
poor cow.
Mhm.
Sorry, Mrs. O'Leary. You took the blame. Of course, it was blame the woman and the
And
cow.
the cow.
Jags.
I know.
It just happened to be that it was an incredibly dry summer, incredibly windy day, humongous front coming through. It was going to take literally nothing to start a fire and make it the worst fire ever. So,
And that's why they had 4 huge fires.
to
Mhm.
totally, yeah, yeah. And so Michigan took a lot of that. Again, Wisconsin, the Peshtigo fire,
Mhm.
bummer.
Bummer,
Yeah,
indeed. But anyway, there's the Chicago Water Tower pumping station. It's quite lovely. You can see it. It's right downtown. It's like, hey, you don't want something to be affected by fire? Make it brick.
make it brick, make it stone,
Mhm.
unless it's Dragonfire. Because I just got done rewatching Game of Thrones. I watched the entire 8 seasons again, and
Keep waiting for that 8th season to get better. Mm.
yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, sorry. I digress.
Mhm.
Nerd problems, first world nerd problems.
First
God.
world
All
nerd.
right.
Ooh, here's a good one.
Okay.
So Paris of the Prairies, which is also a nickname for Chicago. Paris of the Prairies. See, that gives you that inclination that at one point, it was considered the West. It was like pretty far.
Yeah.
It was like, dang, but it was the Paris of the Prairies. Is also where the Twinkie was created.
Hot dog.
I know in 1930 by Jimmy Dwyer. Dewar, the host at the time, he was Hostess brand manager.
Nice.
So he created the Twinkie, brownies, Twinkies. I sense a theme of
Why Chicago's awesome.
pastry.
My sister just called Twinkies a pastry. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
All right. Yeah, Twinkie. I wonder where he came up with that name.
I don't know. I didn't,
Maybe
explore too much more, but I just thought that was funny. I was like, the Twinkie
the Twinkie from Chicago.
from Chicago, 1930.
When was the last time you had a Twinkie?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't think it's been in this century.
Talk about a Gen X thing, because man,
Oh yeah.
when we were kids, if you scored a Twinkie in your lunch, it usually meant that there was some special occasion in the brothers' household.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was it
Yeah.
somebody's birthday? Because I don't think I brought it. I think somebody gave it to me because it
Yeah.
was their birthday and they were passing out treats.
Sometimes when we had a field trip,
Oh yeah.
Mom would let us pick out a Hostess snack.
Yeah.
My mother felt Hostess snacks were an affront to nature, and so she would not bring those into the household.
No.
No.
She was her mother and stepfather owned a bakery,
Mhm.
and so she took pastry very seriously.
Very seriously.
And so there were certain things she would not make. She wouldn't make Texas sheet cake, which
Mm-mm.
was my favorite. She wouldn't make Rice Krispie treats.
Nope.
And she wouldn't make just plain chocolate chip cookies.
Nope.
No, those are
No.
things she would not make because that's what lesser people made.
They were an affront to nature as well.
Exactly.
Thanks, Aunt Patty, for the Texas sheet cake. Thank you, Aunt Vicky, for making us Rice Krispie treats.
And thank you, Aunt Patty, for the just plain chocolate chip cookies.
I know our poor mom takes a beating on this show pretty regularly. So sorry, Mom.
My mom is a snob.
When it comes to baked goods, she's a snob. We did not have a lot of store-bought baked treats in our house.
We did not.
Because she would make them, which was great, because she's a hell of a pie maker and a hell of a cake maker for sure.
Yeah, she would make them, or she would say to us, "You know how to make it.
Yeah,
You got all these recipe books. I'll buy you all the ingredients."
She
I'm like,
would. Yeah.
"Oh."
So, but and it's the irony is that you and I really learned to bake from Mrs. Kelly in 4-H.
Mrs. Kelly was a great 4-H baking instructor.
She was patient, and she was. Our mother is many things. She was not patient when we were young when it came to baking.
No, she wasn't. And after we finished our baking class with Mrs. Kelly, she had a pool with a slide and a diving board.
So that was super fun. So you would get everything done, and then it would bake, and then you'd go swim while things baked, and then you'd go.
And then you'd have treats afterwards.
Totally.
It was a great day.
4-H was great.
Loved 4-H.
It was so great. Right. Other fun things you should know about Chicago: the world's largest and most extensive T-Rex zoo is at Chicago's Field Museum of Natural History. Oh God, that was another thing that the girl said yesterday at the haircut thing. I'll tell you that one after the show.
Oh no.
Yeah, geez. It was a dinosaur reference, but not in a good way.
Oh geez. That poor girl.
Anyway, the world's largest and most extensive T-Rex zoo is at Chicago's Field Museum of Natural History. And I'm just going to say this. Museums are a big part of what we do in Chicago. But I'm going to tell you, I love museums so much. And this is a really great skeleton. It's a fantastic fossil of one of the most complete T-Rex fossils ever. But if you happen to just be plunking around the West and you want something to do, you're in these little towns, find out if there's a municipal museum in these towns you visit. Because honestly, the best dinosaur collection I have ever seen is at the Municipal Museum in Canyon City, Colorado.
Yeah.
And honestly,
it's not just for prisons.
It's not. Canyon City's not just for prisons anymore. Well, it still is. But they also have an amazing municipal museum with some incredible dinosaur fossils. The other one is that place that in their little natural history museum they have in Dickinson, North Dakota.
Yeah.
North Dakota.
Amazing. I mean, we could have spent I could have spent the night there.
Totally.
And gone back the next day.
Yes. So, but if you can't get to Dickinson, North Dakota, and you probably can't because it's in North Dakota.
I think there's a road.
Yeah. So I highly recommend the Field Museum in Chicago is fantastic. Just so you know, it's a very popular exhibit. It's going to be crowded. There will be many children. Just know you're going to have to deal with that. And that's okay because it's worth to see this little bit of paleontological history.
It is. Totally is.
It's totally cool. So.
Oh, and here's another thing about the White City. In fact, the Columbian Exposition is why Chicago is sometimes called the White City because all of the buildings they built, they did in white. So that was very cool. Anyway, this is where the Ferris wheel made its debut in the Columbia Exposition in 1893, conceived by George Washington Gale Ferris. His Ferris wheel.
And that Ferris wheel was no joke. That was the baddest ass Ferris wheel ever
Mhm.
built by human hands.
Yeah, it was huge, and, like, the first time people were on it, they were like, "Don't know if we're gonna die."
Yeah, because they didn't know if
It would really
the
work.
physics of it would work because what they were the big thing was that the World Fair prior to the Columbian exhibition in Chicago was in Paris. And so the Eiffel Tower debuted at that and everybody was like, "Oh, the Eiffel Tower, how will Paris basically set the standard for what all world fairs should be like." They just blew people's minds. And so what America wanted to do is they wanted to be able to compete and have something better and more badass than what the French put up. And so they were really struggling to figure out they needed that thing. Like the Eiffel Tower was the thing at the Paris World's Fair. And then here comes George Ferris with his Ferris wheel, and they were like, "No, absolutely not." And then they're
Mhm.
like, "Well,
We got nothing else.
okay." And and Gail Ferris really he lobbied hard to get
Mhm.
his Ferris wheel there. And then of course they had to build the thing. And then of course they had to test it. And then
Uh-huh.
but it was wildly successful and it literally became the thing of
Mhm.
the of among I mean, the Columbian exhibition was wildly successful and many people consider it to basically have just blown Paris out of the water as far as World's Fairs go, but there you go.
There you go, the
Yeah.
Ferris wheel. There you
Yeah.
Chicago. Mhm,
Totally.
mhm,
The first blood bank started by Bernard Fantas at Cook County Hospital in 1937.
mhm, yeah, and now we got blood banks all over the place.
And guess why you can have a blood bank? Refrigeration, yo. There it is.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to bleed to death, if you, accidentally are vacuuming and you suck up the vacuum cord and the lamp falls at you and you have to block it, and then your roommates Jenny helped save somebody from that.
Yeah.
Blood bank.
True story that I was living in a house in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Yeah. One of my
Mhm.
roommates just vacuuming his room, had one of those big dome lamps, vacuuming, accidentally sucked up the cord, pulled it, lamp came over, slashed his wrist. It unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen some weird things in my life, and brothers. I
Mhm.
kind of put that one out of my mind. Anyway,
Yeah, blood bank. Thank God for blood banks.
blood banks, man.
Otherwise, that boy'd be dead.
Whew.
Mhm.
I know, right? So anyway, and again, you guys, blood banks are possible because you have in order for blood to be stored, it needs to be refrigerated.
Yeah, because
So there you
otherwise
go.
it'd go bad.
It goes bad. So yay, refrigeration!
Yay!
Yay! Good job, electricity.
Mhm.
Uh, awesome. All right.
Okay, so the sisters' recommendation when visiting Chicago, and this is in no particular order, but these are things we've done in Chicago or things that we tend to do over and over again because we love them so much.
Uh, just so you know, there are many things to do in Chicago.
Many things.
And as Ann and I have said previously, we are not cool.
Mm-mm.
So we do a lot of nerdy stuff in
Mhm.
Chicago because that's what we like to do. But it's fun and it's
Super
neat and you
fun.
learn stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this is stuff that we as nerdy people love.
Correct.
So the first one, like I said, in no particular order, but the Art Institute of Chicago, which has a huge impressionist collection. I think it's like one of the biggest ones in the country. It might be the biggest impressionist collection in the country.
And I know this is in no particular order, but this place is my favorite.
I
It's my favorite.
I do love it. Also, they have the food there is very good. Their cafe is excellent and it's very reasonably priced. So if you're looking for a good lunch, go look at some art, get some lunch, go look at some more art, get a coffee, and in between on your food breaks, you can talk about all the cool art you've seen. And that's the thing. I'm like this is priceless works of art.
Ferris Bueller was not wrong.
He was not. He was not. So, I love the Impressionist collection, but they also have like a paperweight collection there that is bonkers amazing.
The paperweight, the one that always, of course, I love you're looking at the Chagall stained glass, which is my favorite. I'm a huge fan of Marc Chagall. I think his work is fascinating, and I've always loved it, even since I was a little girl. I have no idea why. Um, but the paperweights and the little mini part, the
Parts.
miniatures.
Yeah, the miniatures. It's like, oh man, it's amazing. This other painting is actually, I'm gonna nerd out. It's an impression. This is Manet, and this is a painting of Bertha Morisset, who was also an impressionist painter.
Oh,
Yeah, so
so meta.
it is. So it's an impressionist painting of an impressionist painter.
Let
So
that sink in. Let's just let that sink in for a minute.
exactly.
Okay, that
All
was
right.
amazing.
There you go.
That was an
Mhm.
impressionist moment.
An
So
impression. It made an impression.
it to oh
Oh,
no, you didn't.
I totally did. Yes. So, if you have a chance, go to the Art Institute. um, you're gonna need to spend at least all day there. So,
And
pick a
there's just so many just great little nooks and crannies. Like I can't remember when we stumbled upon the paperweight room.
I don't know, we're just like we had, like, a little bit more time, and we're like, "Oh, let's go look at this thing," and then we ended up spending, like, 90 minutes just looking at paperweights.
Paperweights, and they're so cool.
Mhm.
And then we got to make paperweights at Glass Art in Kalamazoo,
We
and
did.
I'm like, I have a deeper, greater appreciation
Appreciation.
for the paperweight
Me
now.
too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and again, the little miniatures thing where it's like all dollhouses, but doesn't seem like it's cool, but it's really
It's
cool.
really cool.
I don't like dollhouses, and I can't get enough of that exhibit.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't even know.
yeah,
So yeah, another great thing for you to do is to go to Shed Aquarium, and it will be full of sticky children.
yeah.
Just so you know,
Warning,
warning:
full of kids.
sticky children.
They are sticky. But they have this one aquarium, and it's, like, the one right in the middle when you first walk
It's like a
in.
merry-go-round of awesomeness.
Man, you just stand in one place and let all the fish swim by you. Oh, and there's a sea turtle there. Oh, man, I love that's my favorite part. I'll go there and pay the obscene amount of money just so I can stand in front of that aquarium for 35 minutes.
It is.
So,
It's amazing, and
mhm,
I also highly recommend if they have some sort of show to go to it. So, like, if you're looking at that picture, the upper picture, that's kind of their little auditorium where they do different, dolphins or seals or whatever. It's usually pretty educational, so they're not like doing terrible things like they do at SeaWorld. But also, it overlooks Lake Michigan, and it's just a cool view. So, if you just need a break and you want to sit down for a while and just chill and watch their show and look over Lake Michigan, it's just a nice spot.
and the thing is you don't even have to do the show. You can just go and sit there and just it's so beautiful and
It's
peaceful.
nice.
Yeah.
We went to Shed Aquarium for the first time when we were still in high school, when
Mhm,
it had just opened, and I can remember, like, thinking this place is really interesting and special. It's part of what they call the museum campus, and
mhm.
that's, the Shed Aquarium, it's the Natural History Museum, and it's also the planetarium
Terrarium.
that they have out there, and they've kind of perked up the planetarium over the years. They've made it, much more showy,
Mhm.
and so, again, if you have kids, I highly recommend the museum campus. If you don't have kids and you just want to go and learn some cool stuff, now the one that we haven't added to this is the Museum of Science and Industry. And the only reason we haven't added that is because it's a little farther south, and that's not something that we usually get to.
Mhm.
But I've been to the Museum of Science and Industry, and it's beyond outstanding. Joe and I, we were driving back to Chicago, or we were driving back to Denver. This was a number of years ago, and we decided to stay the night in Chicago. We were driving from Michigan to Denver, and I made Joe take me to the Museum of Science and Industry, and it was just literally 6 hours of just nerding out hard.
Mhm.
It's fascinating, and again, just really, really amazing and cool. So, if you're going to museum, Chicago's a great place to
Yeah.
museum.
It really is.
Well, yeah, we spend a lot of time doing that.
We
So,
do.
not sorry. Look, here's another museum.
Here's another Field Museum of Natural History. You can go see Sue the T-Rex. This museum has excellent special exhibits. Some of the best exhibits I've ever seen have been at this museum. Duncan and I, or Jenny and I saw did one on tattoos and how tattoos influence culture. It was an amazing exhibit. And then Duncan and I went last spring, and we saw a whole special exhibit on death. Oh, it was fascinating, just totally fascinating. So their permanent exhibits are a lot of fun, really interesting, but then they also do some really interesting special exhibits. So it is totally worth the time and effort.
It is.
Mhm,
And again, what's great about the museum campus is it sits right off of the Chicago bike trail there, that they have, and it's also right on Lake Michigan.
mhm,
So if you feel like you just get tired of museuming and you want to spend some time outside, it's a great place to do that. You're right on Lake Michigan. It's really
mhm,
beautiful. So highly recommend.
mhm.
The next one that we go to quite a bit is the Garfield Park Conservatory. This is a hidden gem, so you have to drive a little bit. It's a little bit west of downtown, and it's kind of the area itself around it a little bit sketch. It's one of those up and coming areas that's it used to be like a jewel of Chicago, then it kind of fell on hard times, and it's working on becoming a jewel of Chicago again. But if you want to just go and see something really gorgeous and beautiful, and they've done a really magnificent job of restoring this facility and expanding it, then you definitely want to go to the Garfield Park Conservatory. It's a botanical garden. It's a fantastic greenhouse. They've expanded it and added a little bit of trail work on the outside of it that you can go around and look at their gardens.
Mhm. Really, it's
It
really a
is.
cool place.
Yep.
Mhm.
I think it's like $5 to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous. I think,
I
and I want to say it's a donation.
Yeah, yeah, you're just like, man, after paid like $30 to go see Sue the dinosaur, you're like, okay.
That is kind of one of the hard parts about Chicago is that if you're going to visit Chicago, save your pennies.
Mhm.
There's nothing cheap about visiting
No.
Chicago.
The hotels are cheaper than Detroit just because there's more of them,
Correct.
but everything else is a lot more expensive.
Yeah, and we're taking the train in because
Mhm.
one of the nice perks is that if you're going to travel to Chicago, you can take the train. The Amtrak goes from basically Pontiac to Chicago. There's a couple of different lines. There's
Mhm.
the Blue Water and the Wolverine that you can take in. But there's also something called the South Shore Line, and that starts and ends at the South Bend Airport.
Mhm.
And they stop in Michigan City, they stop in New Buffalo. So if you wanted to, park your car in South Bend and then take the South Shore into Chicago, that's a great way to do it. That drops you right off essentially at the Millennium Station, right on Michigan Avenue. That's a no brainer
Mhm.
because parking in Chicago is challenging,
And expensive.
expensive. Because if you're going to hotel it and
Mhm.
you're going to park, it's $70 a night.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
so you know,
Yeah, so you're literally paying another, room just to park your
park your
car.
car. So if you can find a way to train it in, we'll talk a little bit about
Mhm.
that at the end. But you definitely have options there when it comes to traveling into Chicago. Okay, so one of my favorite things in Chicago is the Chicago Lakefront Trail. And it's awesome. It's 18-mile. It's paved. It's a bike path. It's you can bike, you can walk. They have very distinct lanes for both.
Mhm.
So you can basically go from the south right to the museum campus all the way up to Lincoln Park. It's really awesome. It's especially awesome in the summertime because there are snack shacks.
Exactly. Get some ice cream, get a cold beverage, get a tasty walking taco.
Totally. So get your exercise on, whether
Mhm.
you're a walker, biker, runner,
Mhm.
rollerblader,
Mhm.
skateboarder, scooter,
Mhm.
whatever.
Whatever.
Go get your exercise on and then go to the snack shacks.
Exactly. So delicious.
So delish.
Mhm.
And there's lots of little places to stop along the way. There's
Mhm.
benches. There's lots of places where you can go and enjoy the lake and see stuff and
Mhm. Lots of green space.
lots of green
Mhm.
space. So
Yeah.
good job, Chicago.
Good job.
The other city that has a really great one of those is Milwaukee.
I know. Milwaukee is a beautiful one.
I know.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what I enjoy that, and we'll end up doing that for sure
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's a great way to get around Chicago.
Mhm.
Right.
All right. There's so much to do on the Third Coast. River architecture tour won't look at all of the big buildings in Chicago the same way again.
No,
Jenny and I did this in 2019,
we did.
and it was. I'm like, looking and being told about all these buildings, and then when we leave Chicago later that day, we're like, oh, look, there's that building. Oh, now I know that building. It make you. Sometimes you don't see the buildings because they're so tall and they're so imposing. You're just like big building, big building, big building, big building. But this makes you stop and look and see the difference. You start to see, oh, this was like this time period. This was this time period. This influenced that. So it's just plus you're on a boat in the river, so you get a really different view of the buildings than when you're walking or driving.
Well, when you're walking or driving, you're super distracted because there's so much happening at ground level.
Mhm.
I'm like, you got to watch out for this. You got to watch out for this. There's 100 people in front of you. There's cars that are trying to run you over. And on and on. Chicago is a very honky city, meaning
Yeah.
when you're driving, people are honking at you all the time.
Yeah.
There's always horns honking at you. So what's nice about the river is that you can just sit and relax, enjoy your beverage, and
Mhm.
listen to the nice person talk to you about these buildings and really look at them and not be distracted by all this other stuff.
Right.
It's my favorite way of the ways that I've seen the city of Chicago. That architecture river tour is probably one of my favorite ways I've ever seen
Yeah,
it.
me too, me too.
Yeah.
Because it really made me stop and appreciate, not just like the vista of it, like, you stand back, you're like, "Oh, look at all those cool big buildings," but it made you look at the trees through the forest is what it
Yes.
did. Mhm.
Good job, Chicago River Architecture Tour. We love you.
We love you. Mhm,
All right. The next up is Chinatown. Eat some dim sum. Touch
mhm.
the heart. Talk to me about that, Ann
Okay,
Brothers.
so, that's what dim sum means. It means touch the heart. So you go in, and some places have carts where they wheel them around and you point to what you want, and other places have like a menu sheet where you check off what you want, and then they just bring you this awesome, amazing food. It's like the Chinese buffet is the bastardization of dim sum.
Okay. Is that what we're doing on Monday?
Yeah, we're gonna go eat dim sum. And then, of course, then Chinatown, part of American history is that we forced Chinese immigrants to live in certain sections of town so that they would not contaminate the rest of the city. And so using that, they built up these beautiful areas where you can be steeped in Chinese culture. You can go to stores, and they have a lot of bakeries in Chinatown, some really good pastry.
Nice.
So it's just a really cool place to go, and I enjoy it, and the food, yum, dim sum. Mhm.
Dim sum. I'm really looking forward to that because there's actually a really great dim sum place in Denver. I got to go one time, and it's still one of the best meals I ever had in
Mhm.
Denver.
Yeah,
It was great. No one spoke English there, and I just had to point to things because I didn't know how to say anything. He's like, point, point. Awesome.
exactly, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're just supposed to point.
Point. I'm good at that.
Mhm.
Point. There it is.
There it
There it
is.
is. There it is.
So,
Excellent.
mhm.
All right.
Again, there's a ton to eat. I mean, we didn't even scratch the surface here. I just picked a couple of places that we often go to at least every time we visit Chicago, and one of them is Veruca Chocolates.
Ooh,
So if you remember the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory,
I
one
do.
of the characters was Veruca Salt,
Yes.
and so this is named after Veruca,
She
the
was
young
not
lady.
nice.
She wasn't, but being nice. I'm sorry, being nice is not all it's cracked up to be.
Let's just say Veruca knew what she wanted. She wanted everything. I want it, Daddy.
Exactly. So, if you want cool, hip, and sexy chocolates and other sweet treats, Veruca is the place for you. It's beautiful there. And as Jenny knows, I am a sucker for tiny, beautiful things that I can put in my mouth. And so,
Well, and the chocolate, okay, it's not just beautiful chocolate. That chocolate's good.
yeah,
It's
it's
delicious.
it's it's beautiful, and because I'm not opposed to eating chow in a bag of M&Ms, trust me. I do not, it does not have to be, but I love delicious chocolate, and that's just, oh gosh, I just love to go to this place. So if you want cool, hip, sexy chocolate, that's delicious, go to Veruca
They
Chocolates.
hand paint their chocolate.
Yeah,
They hand paint it.
I know.
It's so cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, before I move on and talk about Italy, let's kind of talk about the inspiration for this trip. Is that both Anne and I are enjoyers of the show The Bear, which
Mhm,
is on Hulu. The Bear takes place in Chicago. It is a show about family. It's a love letter to the city of Chicago. And in season 2, one of the characters basically does a tour where she's trying to eat Chicago because they're trying to find inspiration for the restaurant that they're opening. And all I could think of during this episode was how badly I just wanted to go to Chicago and just do what she was doing and just
mhm,
eat Chicago. Um, and that's part of the reason that
mhm,
that's one of the reasons that we talk so much about food, especially in this particular, is that that's kind of why we're going. We're
mhm,
going because Chicago really is this place where you can explore and eat, and there are so many different styles and types and when it comes to cuisine. And we're
mhm,
not just talking about the fancy expensive stuff. There's so many great little diners and places that you would not think about. And so, this is we've done a little bit of research. We've kind of figured out what we want to do, what we
mhm,
want to see, and that's what we're doing. So some of the places that we're going to go, we've been to before, and there's some places that we're going to be going that are brand new.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's pretty
I
awesome.
know. So excited.
All right. So speaking of places that we often go, it's Italy. Now Italy is sort of a tourist. This is a more touristy place. I can't think of the name. It's the one Mario
Mhm,
Batali's inspiration. I'm not a huge fan of him. He's kind of a sleaze, but um, his place, Italy, is pretty great. So if you don't know what to do, if you want to have something a little bit yummy, there's a lot going on here. It's kind of overwhelming, when it comes to keeping track and going back. This is a solid place. This would be kind of an anchor place for me because sometimes if I just want a good glass of wine and some charcuterie, this is a great place to do that because the food there is good. There's a little something for everybody.
mhm,
There's desserts there, there's pizza there, there's charcuterie there, and so this is one of the first places we'll go because we'll get off the train, we'll check our bags, and then we'll go to Italy and grab some charcuterie, grab a glass of wine, and it's just a place where you can kind of get your bearings and relax for a minute. It's busy. There's so much good
mhm,
stuff to look at.
mhm,
Just the candy counter alone is
mhm.
is pretty sexy.
Tiny, beautiful things I can put in my mouth. It's the perfect place to buy presents for the ones you love, only it's hard to then give them to them because you want to keep them for yourself.
And they just have a lot of cool. I mean, they've
Mhm.
got kitchen gear. I'm like, if you're interested in anything dealing with food, this
Mhm.
is a great place to start.
Yeah, you need
So,
a bottle of wine, a bottle of olive oil, a bottle of vinegar. I mean, just beautiful. It's
yeah.
it's a one-stop shop for awesome foods.
Now, last year, my friend Sam treated me to. They had like a wine tasting and food tasting.
Oh.
It was fun. It was a couple hours long, and that you walk in there and you pay your money. You get a little bib, and the bib is where you keep your wine glass. It's awesome. And then they basically had stations around Italy where you could try different wines, and they had little snacks that went with it that were paired with
Mhm.
that. And it was delightful. And so go to their website, look for events like that because it really was a great way to drink some different wines, to eat some different cuisine to go with it. I loved it. I thought it was a blast. And
Oh, their
Sam,
cheese counter.
the cheese counter, what you can watch them make homemade
Oh,
mozzarella, which is great. So, Sammy,
baby.
thanks for doing that. That's still one of my top memories of going to Chicago and especially going to Italy. I love that
Yeah,
place.
it's a fun
So
place.
it is.
It's a good place to like get your bearings and like, oh,
Yep.
I need to rest. Let's go eat.
Let's go eat. And the cool thing about Chicago is that there are so many restaurants. I mean,
Hmm.
we one of the things I wanted for this trip was some French cuisine. There are 10 French restaurants.
Hmm.
Like I want something Italy or I want something steak or
Hmm.
there is only one Michelin star restaurant in the city of Chicago. We are not going there.
Because I got to make a house payment.
Because I have house payments to make and I just don't have that sort of money,
Mhm.
But again, this is something you kind of
Mhm.
okay, here's a fun thing. Also, look for dinner theater. I know that sounds campy,
Mhm.
but you have to think of it that dinner theater is what it is. Joe and I went and saw a dinner theater show. I can't think of the name. This was like 10 years ago when we met Sarah there because she was in a band thing in
Mhm.
Chicago, and it was the most fun ever. It was kind of cheap and kind of cheesy, but it was also a blast. And it's because you have a lot of really great theater talent
Mhm.
and improv talent and performer talent in the city of Chicago. And it was funny and fun, and I highly recommend that. So again, the beautiful thing about the age we live in is the internet will tell you what to do.
You can listen to it or not. It's totally up to you.
It's up to you. So anyway, but these are just some things that we like to do. All right, so go ahead, Ann. Where to eat and get something to drink in the city of Chicago?
I thought I'd focus on a few of the beverage places that we go to. One of them is the Ghirardelli Chocolates, and that's because their hot chocolates are sexy. Always get a small. You're gonna look at them, you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I want a big one of those." Don't, because it will kill you. And this is coming from a person who my friend Dawn says watching me eat sweets makes her jaw hurt. So I can handle a sweet treat, but damn, their drinking chocolate, get a thimbleful because you'll be like, yeah, I want all of that. No, it will kill you. It's so creamy, delicious sweetness. Now, my favorite is the salted caramel
Yeah.
hot chocolate. And Jenny's not a big fan of salted caramel, but oh, and they're like, you want whipped cream? I'm like, yeah.
Whoever says no to
No,
that,
well, like, duh, yeah, I'm watching my figure.
figure's fine.
Mhm.
Mm.
Exactly. So if you want a sweet treat, end of the evening, whatever, Ghirardelli chocolates, get yourself a cocoa. It's delicious.
Yes. So now, in terms of booziness,
Mhm.
I am the boozier of the brother
Mhm.
sisters for sure. Anne is not a drinker. She's more, like I said, she's a hot chocolate girl.
Mhm.
I like an excellent cocktail. I love a good, and it's not. I just like. I like the experience of it. I like tasting it. And so one of my favorites is Cindy's Rooftop, which is on the 14th floor of the Chicago Athletic Association, and this place is cool, and it's cool. And when you go there, it's full of cool people that are
Mhm.
just hip and sexy and cool. And because Ann and I stick out like a sore thumb, we're almost so not cool that we're cool.
Cool.
I know. I know. But just so you know, you're gonna pay $22 for a cocktail there.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least.
Yes. So again, remember that time I said you should save your pennies for going to Chicago?
It's for true.
That's for real. But you don't go to Cindy's Rooftop to get wasted. At least I do not.
Mm-mm.
You go there because they have this cinnamon cocktail from Holland that's so good,
It's amazing.
and it's $22.
It's $22. Exactly.
But I can't get that cocktail anywhere but
Mm-mm.
Cindy's, and
Yeah.
that's why I like going to Chicago sometimes because and I'm sure it's the same in New York. I'm sure it's the same in LA. I'm sure it's the same in really big cities where you go because you can get things that you get in your hometown. Like you will not find me at the Applebee's on Michigan Avenue if there isn't, or what's the other one? The
Oh,
Weber
yeah,
Grill.
the Weber Grill, yeah, or, was it, what's the one with the Cheesecake Factory?
I will not be at the Cheesecake Factory. And the Cheesecake Factory is fine. They have nice desserts and a lovely bar, but
They do.
I'm gonna go someplace like Cindy's where I can have this weird cinnamon drink from Holland
Mhm.
because
Also, because it's on the 14th floor and it's prime real estate, it's an older building and they also have a big patio. So you can go outside and sit on their patio. They even have like fire pits and you get a spectacular view of Lake Michigan. So you drink your $22 cocktail while you're sitting on the patio looking at this amazing um, $10 million view.
yeah, it's
So
cool.
it's cool.
It's again, Anna and I almost feel like sometimes because you have to they have to elevator you in.
Mhm.
You have to get past the guy
Yeah.
to get in there. And sometimes I think the guy looks at us, I'm like, nah, you ain't cool enough to get in here.
Yeah.
And then they let us
And
in
then they let us
anyway.
in anyway
Yeah,
because 'cause they're like, "Oh, I bet you could pay your bill, though." "Yes, we
yes,
can."
we can. Because I'm an adult with a job. All right, Anne, why don't you tell everybody about the Frontera Grill?
The Frontera Grill, I love this, Jenny and I have had dinner there a couple times, and their food there is fantastic.
Good.
But my favorite part is their bar.
The bar's bitchin'.
Oh, it is beautiful. I have a thing for, pre-Columbian and Mexican art, and, their bar is all done in, Mexican art and, I don't wanna say replicas, but inspirations of pre-Columbian Mexican art, so it's very bold and three-dimensional and super gorgeously beautiful, and I just like to sit there with a cocktail, admire the art, and, just have an experience there. Of course, you can eat dinner there. The food is fantastic.
It's a 5-star
Mhm.
restaurant for sure. It's one
But
of Rick Bayless's restaurants, and it's one of the finest Mexican restaurants
mhm.
you'll ever eat.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah, but anyway, that's my favorite part of it. I would eat dinner there every day if I could, but
mhm.
if I could just sit in the bar and have a cocktail and be surrounded by beautiful art, I would do that at the Art Institute if they'd let me bring booze in there or hot chocolate, but they don't. They're very opposed to that.
And as you said, Anne, it's another opportunity to have a $22
It
cocktail.
is totally. I was like, "I would like a $22 margarita because the margarita I had at Trust Lace Amigos was just not enough."
Yeah, we have physical evidence of Anne's trip to the local Mexican restaurant in Chelsea with a margarita. That's what we call it. She has one margarita and she turns into who we call Margaritan,
I just feel so much better.
which usually involves Anne turning into a nap.
That's why I don't drink very much because, like, "Ah, all right, that was fun for a minute. Now I'm sleepy."
Yeah, Anne's not a day drinker. There would be
I'm
no day drinking
not.
with Ann Brothers because then it's just napping.
Exactly. I was like,
We
"Is it?"
can't stay napping.
Oh,
That's
man.
awesome. All right, some final words and trip or advice about going to the city of Chicago. Anne, would you like to take this one?
I did business class.
Business class.
If you're going to take the Amtrak from Michigan to Chicago, pay a little bit more and get a seat in business class. There's a private train car with a restroom for business class customers. You're right next to the club car. Yum, overpriced snacks. And usually there's no children because remember, they're sticky. So I do not want them.
It's not that we hate children. It's just that sometimes you just want to have a child-free experience.
Exactly. So, and it's a little bit nicer, um, and it's totally worth the money.
It is.
I think we usually pay like 20 bucks more, and we're like, "Yeah, business class."
Yeah, and it's taking the train's nice. I know Amtrak had some trouble last year with the Wolverine line where they ended up people having to abandon the train like in the middle of a snowstorm because bad things happen sometimes. So, you always kind of cross your fingers a little bit with Amtrak. Someday I'm going to be in Europe and I'm going to try the European trains or the Japan trains
Mhm.
and get a real train experience. But for now, we have Amtrak.
Just go to Toronto, Jenny.
All right.
Go
Well,
from Windsor to Toronto. You want a totally different train experience.
do.
I gotta tell you. I gotta tell you, their business class is it's
It's
bomb.
better.
It's way better.
Yeah. So business class. The other thing is don't be afraid to walk in the city of Chicago. Walk from the Shedd Aquarium, the Natural History Museum, the Art Institute if you can. You'll walk along Lake Michigan. It's a great experience. That stretch is just really beautiful. And if you're going to experience, some museuming in Chicago, do that. The weather's supposed to be marginal while we're there, so we'll see what happens. Also, there are many ways to get around Chicago. You can Uber, you can Lyft, you can still take taxis. Many of the taxis now are starting to work more like Uber and Lyft. They're app based, so um, I can't recommend this enough. That you need to get comfortable using an app if you're going to travel in big cities anymore.
Yeah, you really do.
You do. It's more convenient. It feels. I don't know if it's safer or not. I will not make the statement that it's somehow safer, but you just have to learn to navigate that. So I highly recommend ahead of time going onto the internet, figuring out which apps you'll need. Definitely Uber, definitely Lyft, but there's also a couple different apps in the city of Chicago that many of the taxis use. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but I'll load it up on my phone tonight before we go because I know I'll probably end up needing it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We're going to be training into Union Station in Chicago. Again, know where to pick up your taxis if you're going to go to Chicago. If you've never flagged down a taxi in Chicago, it's harder and harder to do with all the app stuff. Just know if you can't flag one down, go to a hotel, get in their taxi line, because there's many hotels, especially along Michigan Avenue, where you can get to a taxi. If you can't find one, if you can't flag one down, you always have that option of finding a business where there's a taxi stand of some sort.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go.
Indeed. Sneak peek at next week then. Next week, again, we're kind of a little bit off on our schedule this week because we're doing a Saturday show. Just so you know, we're going to have a special show next week. We're scheduled for a Wednesday. We're going to do a Wednesday show live with Bailey Sisoy Moore. She is the founder and creator of Detroit History Club. You want to talk about Bailey?
And the Detroit History Tours. Bailey is awesome.
We're Bailey groupies.
We are Bailey groupies.
I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
I don't know either. We are. We're both members of the Detroit History Club, which is really easy to join, and it only costs $5. And we have done, probably between the two of us, we've probably done a dozen events, at least between the two of us, that she's done. And was born and raised in Detroit, adores, loves Detroit with a deep passion, knows everybody in Detroit, I think. And because of that, we went to places that we would have never been to because we didn't know anybody local to take us there.
Correct.
So if you want to know more about Detroit and you need a local friend, Bailey, the Detroit History Club and Detroit History Tours, this is your local friend.
I know, and she totally agreed to be on the show. Can you believe that? So high five and white girls. That's right.
Oh, so happy. So excited. I want Bailey to be my friend.
No, you do. I know you do. So she is scheduled to be on our show. So we're going to be broadcasting theoretically, fingers crossed, on Wednesday, the 27th at 6 p.m. We'll be talking to Bailey. We'll be basically grilling her with 10 questions, and then we'll drop that show the following week. So we won't have a show next Sunday. We'll drop our show Sunday, but we'll be talking to Bailey on Wednesday. And
I know,
right?
Super excited about that one.
So jazzed.
Jazz hands.
Good. All right. So before we go, remember you can support the Brothers Sisters for free. Like us, follow us, subscribe. Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and again,
all the best stuff. All the best stuff. Put the word out. If you're enjoying it, then tell your friends, tell your family, so they can follow and like and subscribe to us. So, share the love, share the brothers, sisters love. It costs them nothing. It costs you nothing to say, hey, you should listen to this. It costs them nothing for them to listen to us. And then it will cost them nothing to spread the word even further.
And just remember, you guys, if you need a break from all of the dark podcasts, like the murder podcasts, or if you're tired of listening to National Public Radio because it's bumming you out, then you can always listen to us, because we're going to talk about things that aren't going to bum you out.
We're not.
No,
we're not.
We're going to talk about fun stuff like what Margie's Candies at Chicago, where we're going to eat ice cream out of a giant seashell. And because we're both lactose intolerant, that's going to be interesting.
That's going to be interesting. Exactly. It's and guess what time they open? 10 a.m.
That's right. Might have to take some Lactaid with us.
You'd have to
take those pills, because I'm going to eat a lot of ice cream.
I know. It's I'm going to have my own shell of ice cream.
That's right. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take that off and put us back on. So just say you have been. I'm going to wait. We're going to do this. The outro music. That's right. And Mr. Smart, we can talk. Tuesday, Facebook Living. Look, we have a comment. Hey, French! Abby, and happy birthday!
Happy
Are you
birthday.
still doing Marco Polo? Because I sent you a polo. I don't know if you got it, because I don't know if you're doing Marco Polo still. But happy birthday, Amber French.
Happy birthday.
That's right. This funky music is brought to you by Mad Max Caselli. I don't think he's mad though. Anyway, Max Caselli made us this music. We still haven't named our song.
Oh, we haven't. We're still thinking of that.
So,
we're still thinking. If you have an idea, let us know.
Like I said, we need a name for a song. Amber, again, happy birthday. We love you, woman.
Yeah.
All right. Hang on. I got to put my banner back up. Putting the brand back up. All right. Thanks, you guys. We love you. See you soon.